trade-offs and compromises. This concludes the discussions on the basic design issues regarding the research strategy, extent of researcher interference, study setting, unit of analysis, and the time horizon. The researcher determines the appropriate decisions to be made in the study design based on the research perspective of the investigator, the research objective, research questions, the extent of rigor desired, and practical considerations. Sometimes, because of the time and cost involved, a researcher might be constrained to settle for less than the ideal research design. For instance, the researcher might have to conduct a cross-sectional instead of a longitudinal study, do a field study rather than an experimental design, choose a smaller rather than a larger sample size, and so on, thus sub-optimizing the research design decisions and setting for a lower level of scientific rigor because of resource constraints. This trade-off between rigor and practical considerations will have to be a deliberate and conscious decision made by the manager or the researcher and will have to be explicitly stated in the research report. Compromises so made also account for why management studies are not entirely scientific as discussed in Chapter 2. Regardless of the complexity of the design, the researcher always has to be very clear about each aspect discussed in this chapter, which is the elements of the research design.